Hi guys, this is Alisa from Alisa's Transmuting Tarot Facebook page and Alisa's Transmuting Tarot YouTube channel. Now, I'm an intuitive tarot reader and a spiritually developing person. By now, I think I would totally call myself a life teacher, to be honest. And, you know, from time to time, I get different epiphanies, which spiritual people usually call downloads, spiritual downloads. Also, sometimes I just learn some very valuable and really helpful, I believe, information. And when I do, I just, I have this rush in me and I just feel like I want to share this information with everyone because I feel like it's so helpful, it's so important, it's so valuable that, if people knew that, they would be so happy. And so today, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing another video from this series of my teachings, so to say. And today I'm talking about, in English it's called third year crisis. Now, before you freak out and you switch off and you're like, oh my god, I'm not a child, I'm not a parent, like I don't care. Let me describe who this video is for. This video is for humans. All right? More precisely, it's for people who want to be happy in life, basically. And for people, who want to be happy in life, but at the same time, they kind of feel that maybe, that they seem to be doing everything fine, but somehow just some things just don't seem to work well for them in life. And so I'm gonna be describing today this third year crisis, and I think it might help you uncover some of the reasons, of your potential difficulties, let's say. Now, I have a plan, so from time to time I'm gonna be looking at it so that I don't mess anything up, so that you understand everything, and I think it's gonna help me a lot. Alright guys, so let's go. So like I said, the video is for everyone. It's not really, of course, if you're, let's say, a mother especially, but generally if you're a parent and you have a small child, I do believe that this video will benefit you, but my primary goal was really to create this video for adults who might still be, experiencing some challenges in life, and I would like to help them overcome these challenges, basically. This is the point. And the particular challenge that I'm talking about right now is relationships, any kind of relationships. I'm not talking about romantic relationships in particular, not at all. I'm talking about just any type of relationships, including your relationship with yourself. All right, so this is very important. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Okay, guys, I'm back. All right, so as you know, guys, you might have heard this expression that every crisis is actually an opportunity for success. So I would say it is true. First of all, I just want to very briefly say a few words about this third year crisis. The thing is that I think like the general information that people have on this is pretty much nothing. Honestly, I even tried to Google it right now and just see like some general information about this. And I realized that it's not that easy to find some real, like actual psychological information on the topic. The only things that I found were that at the age of 3, children become very difficult to handle, and they, they have tantrums, they become super stubborn, blah, blah, blah. And the only information that you can find is generally like how to survive this third year crisis for parents. This is it, that's all. And there is no real explanation why this happens, what the child is experiencing, during this period of time, and why the child behaves this way. So it's just like not much information. Now, the information that I'm giving you today, just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a licensed psychologist, so it's not like I'm giving you some psychological legal advice or whatever. But I do work with a psychologist myself. And at some point in our sessions, my psychologist did describe to me this third year crisis, and I just had such an epiphany and such, like jaw-dropping moment that I was like, oh my God, really? Like, if everybody knew this, they would be so happy. And that basically inspired this video. By the way, I don't know if you've seen my other videos, for example, my collective tarot readings, which I do from time to time, but I do remember that I've mentioned and I promised to you that I was gonna do this video already a couple of times, and so the idea to create this video came to me already like a long time ago, and now I'm finally doing it, so here you go, guys. And obviously I really hope that it helps you and that it opens your mind and your eyes to a lot of possibilities for development, and for being happy. So let's see. Yes, so let's discuss what this whole third year crisis is all about, and like the stages, so to say, like what happens. Before the age of 3, the baby feels, really happy, lives in this ideal situation. Basically, the baby thinks, oh my God, my parents are gods. They can do anything. And I am God too. So, kind of those, maybe you've seen like those memes where there is this like dog mentality and cat mentality. And the dog mentality is like, oh my God, people give me food, they give me shelter, they take care of me, they must be gods. And then the cat mentality is like, oh my God, people give me food, they give me shelter, they take care of me, I must be God. And so for the baby, it's kind of like, 2 in 1, so to say. So the baby both thinks that its parents are fully omnipotent, and it also thinks that it is omnipotent. Now, why? Why does the child live in this amazing illusion of, like perfection? Well, it's pretty easy, when it's a baby, the baby doesn't have super many needs, right, at that stage. It has some like basic needs. It needs love, right? It needs attention. Of course, it needs to be fed. And it needs to be like it needs its diapers to be changed, right? And it needs to be warm, it needs to be comfortable and safe. Pretty much it. Well, it also needs to eat and drink, right? Well, basically drink milk, whatever. Anyway, so this is it. And so parents usually are able to fulfill these needs. Of course, we know there are different situations and different families and different life stories, but I would say still, when it's a baby, the baby doesn't fully understand yet that even if the situation is not that perfect, it doesn't really understand that it's not perfect. It still lives in this illusion that its parents are perfect, and it seems like, they are going to attend to every wish that it has, etc. Basically, this is the point. Now, it also thinks that it is omnipotent. Why? Because it's like, it's kind of pretty easy. Let's say the baby is lying in its bed, and then suddenly it wants to eat. So what does it do? It just screams or it cries, right? It's like, ah! And the parents immediately come and, satisfy whatever this child needs or wants, right? Then the child wants its diaper to be changed, and then once again it cries, and once again there is some kind of reaction, right? So it's pretty much perfect situation. It feels like life just, you know, life just gives you everything that you want, right? And so the baby lives like this happily until a certain time. And so let's see if I'm not messing anything up. Yes, so the baby lives in this idealistic situation, or at least in this illusion of ideal perfect situation, and it idealizes its parents, right, and the whole life and the whole situation basically. Now, around the age of 3, so according to the information that I found on the internet, basically like in the second half of the age of 3, and I think ideally until the first half of the age of 4, the child has this period of time where when it is going through this third year crisis. Of course, you know, once again, here each situation is unique and individual. I would say that it probably starts, probably for most people, at the same age, so around the age of 3. But when it finishes for us in reality, this is the key, and this is the reason why I'm actually even doing this video in the first place. Because, guys, long story short, some of us never ever managed to go there this third year crisis until the rest of our lives. Like, I mean, literally, some of us live our whole lives and die, and we still cannot go through this crisis. So, here we go. All right, so let me look at my notes. Yes, so what happens when the child reaches this age of 3? What literally happens is the child's brain is already, you know, more developed. And at this stage, the child starts noticing that not everything is as ideal as it previously thought. So, like I said, originally, before this crisis, the child lived in this, you know, perfect situation where it believed that everything was perfect, that its parents were perfect, and that life was just this amazing bliss, right? And then at the age of 3, when the child becomes, you know, more active and it starts doing something, it starts hearing things like no from parents, right? Some kind of restrictions appear, and the child suddenly notices that actually life is not so perfect. It's not so ideal, and sometimes it's very irritating, you know, really. On top of that, the child realizes that actually its mother is not perfect either. And maybe even its parents are not omnipotent. Or more precisely, they're definitely not omnipotent. So, you know, the child kind of develops, I guess, more needs or something like that. And all of a sudden, it just starts feeling like I want that toy, and I want that toy, and I want that toy, and I also want this and that. And then, you know, parents are like, well, actually, you know, like, depending on the situation, sometimes parents can be like, actually, we cannot afford this. Like, no. Or, actually, you already have 200 of such toys, so how about stop having more? No, right? And there are just different limitations. Or, for example, something like daily routine. So, for example, the child doesn't want to sleep, but the parents know that it's in child's best interest to go to sleep at this certain time. And so, once again, they create certain limitations, right? So, basically, at this age, child starts noticing all of those things. Also, we're all human, and like I said, generally we're not perfect, right? We're not some magical, perfect beings. We're both positive and negative. And so, like I said, the child starts noticing that its mother, particularly, is not perfect. The child kind of notices this duality that there are some aspects of her personality that the child likes, and there are some other aspects of her personality that the child starts not liking or notices them, basically. Now, of course, it's always subjective, right? So maybe the things that the child looks at in its mother as negative ones are in reality normal or neutral, but let's say it's all about the child's interpretation. Another thing that happens at this point, the process of separation of the mother and the child occurs, or more precisely, it should occur if this third-year crisis goes correctly. In reality, to be honest, when I look around on our situation in the world today, I sometimes wonder if any of us ever managed to go through this third-year crisis in a correct way, and if we've ever overcome it at all, because it doesn't seem so. And I am going to give you examples of this at the end, and I think you're going to start understanding what it is that I'm driving at in the first place here. The child starts understanding that mother is a separate being and child is a separate being, right? Because before that, before this third-year crisis, psychologically speaking, both a mother and a child, they were like one entity, really. You probably even noticed that lots of mothers, they carry their baby all the time, everywhere for those 3 years. They constantly talk to them. It's like, it's not even, very often, if you listen to such mothers, they don't even say like I anymore, but during this period of time, they often say we. We did this, we did that. A lot of mothers say, we peed, we pooped, we ate, right? We drank, we blah, 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 meaning I helped the child to do this. So literally it's like they're one entity, even though the child is out of a mother's body, right? But still psychologically they're really one unit. But at the age of 3, what happens is that they start separating and they become 2 units, 2 worlds, 2 separate worlds, and sometimes 2 completely different separate worlds. Because, nobody promised us that our children are going to be identical to us, right? It's not like we're cloning ourselves. It's more like we're continuing ourselves, but in different creative ways, let's say. Psychologically, both a mother and a child should understand that they're 2 separate beings and that this is okay, and that both of them have some positive and negative sides, and that this is okay too, and that they should accept this, that this is normal. Now, yes, and so ideally, at the end of this third-year crisis, what should happen is that at some point in child's psychological development, emotional development, the child should understand that actually, yes, its mother is both, let's say, positive and negative. Yes, there are some personality traits in her that the child likes, and there are others that the child doesn't like. and that it's fine. And there is some kind of like even like chemical process that should happen ideally, right? That should happen in the child's brain, where this separation into positive traits and negative traits, it kind of should melt down into one thing. And so eventually the child doesn't see its mother, for example, as a person with separate positive sides and separate negative sides. No, it just sees its mother as a whole, as one, as just a person. And there is no anymore of this identification that this is positive and this is negative. No, there is no separation at all. There is just unity. It's just a person with their set of personality traits. This is basically, ideally, what a child should come out with at the end of this crisis. And the mother, on the other hand, also should understand that, okay, yes, this child, this baby, it was a part of her own body, right? But eventually it came out, and then psychologically it already developed, and at some point she needs to release this child, and she needs to let this child be this separate being. So I've just described to you a completely idealistic situation. If the whole third-year crisis happened perfectly for a child, and if everything went just super beautifully. Now, by the way, I remember that when I first heard of something like this from my psychologist, my immediate question was, I was like, so how, like, what influences this situation, or what determines whether a child is going to understand that its mother is like a separate type of person, and that you know, there is this unity of understanding her personality, or if it's not gonna do that. Is it like some of us are smarter and some of us are not so smart? And the answer was no. So the truth is, what determines whether we can go through this third-year crisis in a healthy way or not is our mother. Because this crisis is really about the mother and the child. So how can a mother, in ideal perfectionistic situation or perfect situation, how can she help a child go through this crisis in this healthy way? The point here is for mother to kind of be the leader and lead the way, and show to the child that it's that, you know, there are sometimes certain boundaries, that she has her own boundaries, right? And there are certain limitations in life, and it's okay. So then the child does go through this process of frustration, feeling frustrated, feeling like, but I want, but I want, but I want, but I want. But still, when the mother is very firm and she's very confident, but also at the same time she expresses and shows that it's okay, that sometimes you don't get what you want, then the child eventually understands this and also becomes more patient and more accepting, and just feels generally better about the whole situation. Also, it's really about you know, learning how to negotiate, and generally learning how to get along with other creatures in the world, in the universe, really. So, because it's not about us always getting what we want, and it's not about others always getting what they want. It's about us cooperating and finding how we can all live peacefully and in harmony, even though each of us has a different set of needs and different set of personality traits, and each of us is generally unique and different. How do we still get along and not kill each other in the process on this planet? This is what this kind of crisis is really about. And so, for example, another tip for mothers can be that, for example, when the child starts rebelling against certain limitations that parents set, a mother can show or give choice. You know, for example, let's say a mother can say, okay, you're going to sleep now. And the child says, no, I don't want to sleep, I don't want to sleep, blah, blah, blah. But then the mother can rephrase it and say, okay, would you like to go to sleep on your own, or would you like me to carry you, right? And then the child can still be rebelling for a certain period of time, but the mother should just relentlessly keep repeating the same question. And, you know, once she's repeated it several times, eventually the child is like, okay, so I might not have the possibility here of not going to sleep, so I do have to accept it, but it's not that I don't have a choice. I always have a choice in life. I can choose to either do it this way or that way. So it's still kind of like I might agree to what the other person wants, but still maybe there is something about it that I can do that satisfies my need, or you know, that helps me feel also like I'm also in control of my life, so to say. I also have a saying in this. My life matters, basically, and my needs matter, right? So very often also mothers who know how to help a child to go through this crisis, they also often say, you know, it's also about sympathizing. So it's not about, for example, the child says, I want to eat ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And parents are like, no, and this is it. That's not a great response. A way better response, and the response that would help this child go through this third year crisis in a healthy way, would be to say something like, oh, I really understand that you really, really want to eat ice cream right now. It's great pity. I do understand that you feel really frustrated, but unfortunately, you cannot eat ice cream. But I do understand that you feel very sad. Unfortunately, I'm still not gonna let you eat ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All right? So it's not like parents discard their child's needs, because they still pay attention to it. And ultimately, I would say this is probably like the most important aspect of it, so that the child feels like its needs are still valid. They are important. It's not that it just needs to give up on life and its wishes and its dreams and its needs altogether. No, absolutely not. It's just about learning how to be patient, how to sometimes overcome situations when you cannot get something right away, or how to overcome situations when you just generally sometimes cannot get something that you want, and how to get along with other people, how to negotiate, how to find some common ground when you have different needs and, like I said, different personality traits, etc. Now, what am I actually driving at? Like, why am I even creating this video? Why did I think it was so incredibly important for everyone to know on this planet? Guys, let's think about our society, our daily situations, and things that we see day to day all the time. Well, obvious, like the most obvious, the most like typical situations that come to my mind are, of course, all of these situations about like racial discrimination, gender discrimination, do we have other? Oh yeah, sexual discrimination, you know, and things like that. So basically, why do we even have those issues? Because Before, so just a second ago, I described to you a perfect, healthy situation when a child goes through this third year crisis, yeah, in just perfect conditions. When its parents are really aware of everything that they do and what the child is going through and blah, blah, blah. In reality, I don't think a lot of people knew much about this crisis, or the truth is our parents also had their parents and their parents had their parents. And so if all those other parents did not learn how to do it themselves, right, they could not pass this knowledge on to their children, right? So ultimately, if you feel right now like a victim and you feel like, oh my god, my parents never treated me so nicely, and they didn't help me go through this third year crisis in a healthy way, well, your parents, so it only shows that your parents never got such help from their parents. So they never went through their third year crisis in a healthy way either, right? So this is the point. So it's not really, this video is not to make you feel like a victim. It's not to make you start blaming your parents for everything in your life. It's about for you to start taking responsibility for your own life and to start taking steps. Because sometimes if you don't even know what the problem is, how can you start taking steps? So right now I'm describing to you what the problem is. All right. So in non-idealistic situation, if the child doesn't go through this 30-year crisis in a healthy way, there are a lot of things that can happen. The most typical ones are that mothers do not want to let their children, get separate. So mothers still want to have their children with them all their lives, and they want to still be one unit forever and ever and ever. And this is where we see all those kind of like overprotective mothers, or mothers who constantly meddle in your life, regardless of whether it's your private life or your social life or any other aspect of or your professional life. These are mothers who sometimes you as an adult can be already, I don't know, like a CEO of some huge company, and still your mother is calling you and is like, did you say thank you and please to all the people at a meeting today? And and what about your new girlfriend? What did she tell you about this and this? And I think that you should do this and this, I don't know, about your situation with your girlfriend or whatever, or boyfriend. You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes it's just like, yeah, so those mothers just don't let you go, so to say. As a result, what happens with such people is that they never stop rebelling. And it's like theoretically, let's say biologically speaking, we can be already adults, but psychologically speaking, right, our emotional intelligence is still stuck at the age of 3, because sometimes our parents tell us, do this. And yes, they really might not have the right to tell us what to do in our life, right? But it's still, if we react at that, right? If we react to that, then it's also our problem. So what I'm saying is that this crisis, like I said, it's really for both parents and children. And your parents might never go through this crisis until the rest of their life, but it doesn't really matter. Their journey through this crisis is their problem. Forget about them. Concentrate only on yourself, on your part. Because once you have overcome this issue, right, and you've gone through this 30-year crisis in a healthy way, other people, your parents and everybody else, is gonna stop bothering you at all. Now, I just gave you examples with your parents. However, let me transfer this on other people. The point is, like I said, if we did not go through this crisis in a healthy way, we start rebelling all the time. And that means that we project the image of our parents on every person that we meet in our lives. In other words, if we meet a new girlfriend or boyfriend, we're gonna project this situation on them. So we're not really gonna be in actual male-female or female-female or male-male, whatever relationship. But we're gonna be projecting it as in parent and child. So the interaction, psychologically speaking, is not gonna be equal. It's just gonna be like, yeah, you're my parent and everything that you say irritates me and bothers me, so I'm gonna be rebelling against everything that you say. You see this, I'm sure that you see this a lot. When somebody, for example, you meet with your friend and your friend says, let's say you share with your friend some, I don't know, problem that you have, and your friend says, actually, maybe you could do this and that to solve your problem. And automatically, something in you switches and you're like, actually, I don't need this. Actually, I'm totally fine. I never asked for any help. Like, thank you, but I'm good, right? Even though, in reality, nobody forced you to do anything, right? Nobody forced anything on you, but you just projected the image of your parents who were at some point forcing something on you, and you were rebelling against them, and now you projected it on your friend. The same situation happens with, for example, our partners. Like I said, so for example, your partner can say, let's go traveling to this country. And you're like, what? This country? You're not the boss of me. You're not gonna be telling me where I wanna be traveling. I'm gonna be traveling there. You wanna be traveling there? You travel there. And I'm gonna be traveling there. Coming back to all those racial discriminations, sexual discriminations, and gender discriminations. For example, basically, the problem is that when you didn't go through this crisis, 30-year crisis well, you also feel, because it's both-sided. And so both your parents or your mother feels like you're a part of her, and you also feel like you're a part of her too. So you still both of you feel like you are one unit. And that means that you also project this idea on everyone else. And so again, for example, let's say you meet a person who has a different skin color, right? And so you project the idea that you and the person, you're one being, that you're one entity. And then you don't understand. So in your psyche, you're like, well, let's say I'm white and you're, I don't know, dark skinned. And so how can it be? This is impossible. You are a part of me. So we must be the same color. You have no right to be different from me. This is the point. Do you see it? You have no right to be different from me because we are one. And so, it's like, I'm not going to let you go. You have to be a part of me. I'm not gonna let you be different. We're gonna be one forever and ever. And you have to dress like me. You have to look like me. You have to walk and talk like me. You have to be me. This is the point. And that's why in our today's society, it is so difficult for us to embrace our differences. to embrace the fact that we're all, each of us is a unique and separate, you know, completely different entity, different world, different person. Because in our psychology, we're like, no, we're one, we must be the same. And I can tell you, like, from my personal experience, you know, I sometimes met such people who literally, like, literally came to me and sent things like, for example, I remember I met one girl in my life who she definitely had a lot of problems with this 30-year crisis. And she was always bothered by people doing things differently from her. And she was very, very strongly irritated by this. It's like she just couldn't tolerate the idea that somebody else could be different from her. And so I remember she was very irritated by me, and she would often say like, I don't understand. I dress like this. Why do you dress like that? And I thought, because we're different people, you know? Or I remember there was another guy, and with this guy we were like going through a short training, and somehow he was also generally like very irritable, and he was also irritated by me at some point. And what he did, he came to me and he said, like, I'm not kidding, guys, this is just, I'm quoting right now. And he said, I don't like you. Change. And I looked at him and I said, actually, if you don't like me, it's your problem. So you should go and do something about it. And he was like, no, if you bother me, it means that there is something wrong with you. So you have to go and change something about yourself. Guys, this is the most typical example of a person who didn't go through a 30-year crisis in a correct way. Because it's like literally the person just cannot accept the fact that somebody else is different from them, maybe very different from them, and they're not even willing to look at themselves and at their own behavior and acknowledge that it's something about them, right? So hopefully, you know, my intention for this video was to raise awareness basically on this issue, and hopefully this video is going to help you understand why you might be having, you know, problems in life, and just some things that you're not happy with, especially when it comes to relationships. It's also really about your relationship with life in general, you know, the way you feel life treats you, so to say. This is also a projection of how your parents treated you, all right? So be aware of that. So if you often feel like, oh, life is unfair to me, life is this, life is that, this is your projection of your parents. Again, like everything stems from that. So if you ask right now what you should do, or like if it's lethal, so to say, there is always a way out of every situation, and there is a way out of this situation as well. However, it's not, you know, like a 1 second type of solution. Basically, here I would only advise you to go to either a psychologist or a coach or a healer, but ideally, you know, people who understand the psychological aspect, right? And work with them, because ultimately what they should help you do, they should help you step by step become emotionally mature to such extent that you finally become mature enough to understand that you and your mother, you're separate beings, and there is no good or bad. You are just different, and that everyone in the world is different, and that this is okay. And you know how to negotiate, you know how to get along, you know how not to be bothered by things. This is also where such issue, I would say, disappears, you know how many people feel a lot of anxiety about what people might say or think about them? You know, many people have this like fear of judgment, right? And so when you start understanding that actually other people are different and they have the right to have their own opinions and there is nothing wrong with that, this fear of judgment also dissipates. So just this one one topic, this one thing, this 30-year crisis, as you can see, it solves so many problems. It's like, I wouldn't say it's all encompassing, but it's like many encompassing. So I feel like it's really the key thing. And then, you know, for those people who think, oh, but what about the teenage crisis, you know, when teenagers become like really crazy? I don't know if you'll believe me or not, but the truth is, if a child went through this 30-year crisis in a healthy way, the teenage years are going to be light and easy. There is going to be like a little bit of, you know, just maybe some kind of consolidation process, let's say, when the teenager thinks, oh, okay, I'm actually gonna check out how other people live compared to my family, see how different people can be, and that's pretty much it. But ultimately, if a child was able to go through this 30-year crisis in a healthy way, like I said, teenage years are going to be easy breezy. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know how you feel, but I remember that when I heard this and when I understood this, I had this jaw-dropping moment. I was like, oh my God, now everything suddenly makes sense, right? I hope I was able to do this for you. Do let me know, guys. First of all, tell me, because I'm very, very curious how you feel about this whole topic. First of all, do you feel like you might have a problem with this 30-year crisis? Secondly, do you feel like you want to do something about it? Because, you know, this is the next step, right? First, if you have a problem, you need to identify it. And step number two, you take action, you do something about it, right? So would you say that you are willing to do something about it? What else? Also, let me know how you generally felt. Like, did, for example, this topic trigger you in some way? Did you feel irritated by it? Did you feel like, you're not the boss of me, I'm not gonna listen to this topic? Or something like this? Just let me know. I feel like, honestly, if we managed to heal this wound, so to say, you know, the psychological wound, if we manage to go through this 30-year crisis in a healthy way, regardless of what your biological age is, like our society would be just on such, you know, higher level that, yeah, I feel like all our problems would just completely disappear, because we wouldn't have problems, or at least not that many problems in relationships. I mean, in our romantic relationships, we wouldn't have problems in relationships with our friends, with our family, with our children, with our parents, at work, our partnerships, I mean, like business partnerships. You know, we would be able to be completely okay with different races, with different genders, with different sexual preferences, with just, we would just be okay, because we would just feel solid and happy with ourselves. I want to do like one or two follow-up videos where I wanted to give you some more precise examples, and maybe not so obvious, because right now I described to you some rather pretty blunt, pretty obvious situations, but there are situations where this 30-year crisis is not so obvious to catch. And so I wanted to discuss those, and I wonder if maybe this will also, you know, open your mind, so to say, to some ideas. And yeah, if you're curious of something about this or you have some follow-up questions, you can also write them in the comments below. So please let me know. All right, guys. So thank you very much. This is it for today. And remember that on a different note, if you are interested in intuitive personal readings, intuitive personal tarot readings, you can always contact me via Alisa's Transmuting Tarot Facebook page, and you can have a session with me. So feel free to do that. And other than that, I wish you a really great day, happy life, happy and healthy life, and yeah, see you.